A very good morning to all my dear students. Welcome back to your English literature class once again. I hope you are all fit and fine staying back at home. So, we will continue with our class, with our English literature class. You must be knowing that we have already done with one chapter, that is the Kabliwala, and it has already finished. And so, we will start another chapter from the syllabus. Okay. Today we will do one poem, not a prose. Okay. And the poem's name is The Captain's Daughter. It is in page number 78. You can open the book and you can learn. Now, as the name tells the poem, it is, you can understand well that it is all about sea, ship, captain, and his daughter. Can you understand what I am telling? As the name tells, the captain belongs to sea where the ship moves. It belongs to ship and ship's captain. So these three things you can keep in mind while you find this particular name. Okay. And the captain's daughter also. Okay. Now, what is all about the poem? We will read it afterwards. But as you all know, before reading this poem, before reading or before starting a chapter, I always like to discuss the introductory part of the story or the poem so that it will be much helpful for you people to understand in a better way. Okay, so before I start, let me give you a brief introduction of the poem. So try to understand and listen to it. Okay. The Captain's Daughter is written by James T. Fields. He was an American author, publisher, and poet. Okay. Many of his works, including this poem, can be found in his book Ballads and Verses, which was published in 1880. Now, can you understand? Many of his works means many of his writings, including this particular poem, can be found in his book, and that particular book's name is Ballads and Verses. Okay, means there were so many writings in that particular book. It may consist of prose and poems, and one of the poem is this one. Okay, and this particular book was published in the year of 1880. Hmm. This poem tells us about a brave young girl who is caught in a storm on a ship at sea. Now, this particular poem tells us about a very brave young girl, and this young girl is the daughter of the captain of the ship. Now, captain, you must be knowing who is the captain of the ship. A one who operates the ship, who looks after everything of the ship. He tells the people how to drive it. He tells each and everything of the ship, the head, you can see. Okay. So the poem tells us about a brave young girl, and this girl is the daughter of the captain who is caught in a storm on a ship at sea. Okay. While the adults have given up hope and fear for their lives, the little girl remains courageous and hopeful and inspires the men to have faith in times of trouble. See what is written, or try to understand. While the adults have given up hope, while the adults means the adult people, the people those who are elder than this little girl. Okay, so while the adults have already given up hope, they become hopeless in order to save their lives. Okay, they were very much in fear for their lives, for saving their lives. At that very moment, this little girl remains courageous, remains brave, and hopeful in order to save life, and inspires means motivates, telling good things to the men to have faith in times of trouble, to have faith upon God in the times of trouble. Okay, the poem The Captain's Daughter gives an account of a violent storm at sea which threatened to snatch away the lives of the people who were on board at a ship. Okay, just try to understand the poem. This Captain's Daughter gives the details of a violent storm. Of a violent storm means of a furious storm, of a terrible storm at sea, which threatened to snatch away the lives of the people, which threatened to take away the lives of the people who were on board at that ship. Okay, it was a tense night for every soul on the ship as the storm promised to wreak havoc and put an eternal end to their lives. See what it is telling? It was a tense night. Why the night was tense? As all the people on board were panicked, were full of tension. So that is why that particular night was a tense night. Okay. So it was a tense night for every soul means for every human being, for every people, those who are on board on the ship as the storm promised to wreak havoc. To wreak havoc, wreak means to break, havoc means a huge loss, a huge damage. Okay, so the storm was so strong that it has promised to break the or to damage the ship to a huge extent, to a big extent. Okay, and put an eternal end to their lives, and put an eternal end. Eternal end means ultimate end, means it will it will means the storm will end their lives, end the lives of the people those who are on board. Okay, the thought of death was looming large in everyone's mind at the as the sea grew more and more restless with every passing minute. See what he is telling? The thought the thought of death means people were so busy thinking about death at that moment. The storm became so powerful that it has promised to take away their lives, and all the people on board were fully busy thinking about their own lives. They felt that they cannot save themselves, and they were continuously thinking about death. Okay, so the thought of death was looming. Looming means um, they were thinking all over, all the time. Okay, looming large in everyone's mind means everyone's mind is full of tension as the sea grew more and more restless, means the sea at that time becoming more and more restless. It has forgotten to stop. It has forgotten to become calm and quiet. It is becoming more and more restless at that time. With every passing minute means with every passing minute, as the minutes are passing, the sea is becoming more and more restless, and people were busy thinking about death. Okay, all that the people could do was to pray to the Almighty to bless and get them out of this helpless situation. Now see what has happened. All that the people could do means the people have become so helpless at that time. They do not have anything to do anything as such. What they can do is they could only pray to the gods in order to save their lives. Okay, all that the people could do was to pray to the Almighty to bless them and to get them out of this helpless situation. Okay, the hungry sea was all set to devour the entire ship, and it was a dream. See what is written, or try to understand what is written. The hungry sea. Now, the sea is being compared with hunger. It is as if that the sea has become very hungry and it wants to swallow or chew the entire ship with all its men. Okay, so the hungry sea was all set to devour the entire ship, to snatch the entire ship, to swallow the entire ship. Okay, and it was a dream, and it was a dream means it was a terrible thing. Okay, oh sorry, and it was a green atmosphere all around. It was a green atmosphere means it was a terrible atmosphere all around. It was a green is a terrible. Okay, so it was a green atmosphere all around. All around it was full of storms. When are on board they were on board at that time, it is full of storms. And you students must be knowing that when there is a storm, and if at that moment only people were passing through a boat or a ship, the people must be worried about saving their lives. So being on board, and at that time if a storm occurs, it is very much dangerous and it may take the life. Okay, so that is why that particular night was full of tension. It was a tense night at that time. Every soul was gripped in fear. Every soul was full of fear. Every human beings, those who are on board, were full of fears. All the passengers were in dire distress. All the passengers were in full of grief. They do not know what they should do. They had their backs to the wall. They have their backs to the wall means their their back gets fixed to the wall. They do not find any way out. They could not find any way out to save their own lives. Okay, it was a situation which demanded a miracle. It was a it was such a situation that demanded a miracle. That demanded a miracle. Miracle means something which happens suddenly. Even the captain of the ship had lost all hopes of survival, as the ship was all set to drown. Even the captain of the ship, even the captain, as I have told, even the captain of the ship had lost all hopes for survival, for surviving, for saving his own life, as the ship was all set to drown deep into the sea. Okay, Just then, a few inspiring words from a young girl raised the hope of every soul. See what has happened? Just at that moment, a few inspiring words. Now, see, try to understand. Just then, a few inspiring words from a young girl raised the hope of every soul. Now, at that moment, when all the people were frightening, they became sure of losing their lives at that time. The they heard uh, a voice. They heard inspiring words. They heard a few inspiring words from a young girl, and this particular young girl was the daughter of the captain. Okay, those words, the whatever the girl has said, raised the hope of every soul. Raised, grew the hope of each and every people on board. They have gathered hope by the words, by the inspiring words that this little girl have told at that time when they were full of fears. Okay, the young girl didn't panic and she had a strong faith in God. Now, this little young girl didn't panic when all the adults, when all the people on board were full of fear. They panicked a lot. They loses their hope for saving themselves. This little young girl didn't panic. She was not frightened at that time. She had a strong faith upon God. When the adults had given up entirely, this young girl still had her hopes high and trusted the Almighty to rescue them from this terrifying situation. Now, can you understand what I am telling? When the adults, when the elder people on the boat, on the ship, had given up entirely means had given their all hopes, have loosened their hopes entirely, this young girl still had her hopes high. She was having her hopes high. She didn't lose her hopes at all and trusted the Almighty. Almighty means Almighty is God, all powerful who is. Okay, so she trusted the Almighty to rescue them from this terrifying situation. From this terrifying situation means this night, what is talking about. Okay, she had the belief within herself that the Almighty God will be saving themselves. They, he must be saving themselves from this terrifying situation, from this horrible situation, from this stormy night. Okay, hence, a cheerful atmosphere pervaded the cabin yet again, and slowly but surely the storm passed away and they reached the land safely. Now, as the little girl was having so much hope within herself, after this, suddenly, after some time, see, there became a cheerful atmosphere. There became a cheerful sunlight, glowing sunlight, which pervaded the cabin. The pervaded the cabin means saved the cabin. Cabin means cabin of the ship. Okay. Yet again, and slowly but surely the storm passed away and they reached the land safely. So, after that, what has happened? Surely the storm passed away. Surely and slowly, the storm passed away from that place and they reached means all the people on board by the ship only reached the land safely. Okay. As the little girl was having so hope within herself, She was having such a belief, such a trust upon the Almighty God. The Almighty God have saved them. Okay. A few encouraging words from this young girl boosted the confidence of the passengers and they started believing again. See, now at that very tough moment when the people on board have already lost their hopes, they have lost their faiths upon God by hearing only few words, only few inspiring words from this little girl gathered their hope, gathered their belief, their faith upon God, and they have gathered some confidence even within themselves. Okay, so a few encouraging words, a few inspiring words, whatever it is, from this young girl boosted, boosted means raised, grew, whatever you want to say, boosted the confidence of the passengers and they started believing again. They started believing whom? God, to the Almighty again. Okay. There is always light at the end of the tunnel. So, if we ever move through a tunnel while on road or while on train, whatever it is, there must be an end at the very end of the tunnel. So this you can say the moral of the poem. This you can say the only thing that we can understand from this poem, that there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Whenever there is darkness, there is light at the end of each and every darkness. So this is the thing. There is always light at the end of the tunnel. We must not stop believing at any point in our lives. So we must not stop believing whom? We must not stop believing the Almighty God at any point in our lives. So we must not be stopping to believe upon God at any point in our lives. Means whatever situation, whatever uh, thing we goes through, whatever situation within which we goes through, we should not be losing hope upon the Almighty God. We must be keeping ourselves strong. We must not be so fearful. We must think that after each and every darkness there is hope. The captain's daughter. We were crowded in the cabin. We were crowded in the cabin. Not a soul would dare to sleep. It was midnight on the waters and a storm was on the deep. See what has happened? It was We were crowded in the cabin. Cabin means you must be knowing this cabin word is particularly related to ship itself. Okay? Cabins are the rooms. Cabin means room. Rooms of the ship. Okay. So we were crowded. Crowd means you must be knowing it is a collective noun and crowd means a group of people. Okay. So crowded, so many people crowded. It is in past tense. So as the poem was written so many years back, so it must be written in past tense. So we were crowded. There were so many people and all were crowded in the room of the ship. Cabin means room of the ship. Okay. Not a soul would dare to sleep. Not a soul, not a single human being, not a single person on board at the ship dare to sleep. Dare means have taken the chance of sleeping on that particular night. Okay. It was midnight on the waters and a storm was on the deep. So it was midnight. Now, students, you must be knowing what is a which time is a midnight. It is after 12 at night. So it was midnight on the waters, means as they are passing through water, the ship can only pass through water, isn't it? So on the waters, the timing is midnight. The timing was midnight. Okay, and there was a storm on the deep. On the deep means on the deep sea. Over here, this deep means sea. The sea must be deep enough. It cannot be shallow. It must be deep. Okay. So there was a storm. There was a huge storm on the deep sea, on the deep sea, and it was midnight on the waters. Okay. There was such a horrible storm, there was such a terrible storm that all the people crowded in the cabin, and cannot they could not take a chance to sleep. Okay, I think the first part is clear to you all, right? Now this is it is written in short form. So it is a fearful thing in winter to be shattered by the blasts, and to hear the rattling trumpet thunder cut away the mast. See what has happened? It is a fearful thing in winter. Now, in winter time, you must have seen at home that the water, that if you open a tap, the water that comes out, it is very much cold enough, and you sometimes not feel like to put your hands over there, to put your hands under the tap in order to wash your hand. The water becomes so cold enough, isn't it? So it was a fearful thing in winter. It is in winter season, and they were in the where they were in the sea, deep in the sea, and it was winter time. The sea's water is very much cold. It was very much chilled at that very moment. So um, if the ship gets broken, and if all the people of the ship gets drowned in the sea, so can you imagine what will happen? They will become ice, since it is winter time and the water is very much cold. Okay, so it is a fearful thing in winter to be shattered by the blast. To be shattered means to be what? To be shattered means broken. Okay, so it was a fearful thing in winter to be broken by the blast. Blast means you must be knowing. It is a blow of wind. It is a gust of wind, but the wind must be strong enough. The blow of the wind must be strong enough. A strong blow of wind. Okay. See, in the meaning portion, it is written that a strong gust of wind, as I have told, a strong blow of wind, strong gust of wind, whatever it is. So, it is a very fearful thing in winter to be what? To be broken by the gust of wind. To be broken means which thing can break? As I have told, the ship. If the ship gets broken by the blast of the wind, by the strong blow of the wind, then what will happen? All the people will obviously drown in that deep sea, isn't it? And that is why it is a very fearful thing in winter. Okay. And to hear the rattling trumpet thunder cut away the mast. See what is written? And to hear, they were hearing the rattling trumpet sound. The rattling trumpet thunder. You know thunder, thunderstorms. You must have seen thunder, right? Those that thunder is making such sound, and trumpet. students, you must be knowing what is the meaning of trumpet. Trumpet is the sound that are generally made by elephants. Trumpet is the sound that are generally made by elephants. Okay, so it is being compared now, and on the ship, we cannot think that right at that moment there was a elephant at the ship. No, nothing as such, but it is being compared. The thunder, the sound of the thunder is being compared with the rattling. Rattling means also sound. Rattling trumpet is also sound, a huge type of sound, being compared with the thunderstorms, with the thunder sounds. Okay, so they were hearing the rattling trumpet thunders, which is cut cut away the mast. Now the students must be knowing what is a mast. You can see in the picture that is given in the page. See, on the ship there are some flag type of things. Now there are some flags that are being held up. Those are the mast. Okay, nowadays you cannot see any ship like that, but in the early times there there were certain flags which shows the direction on which side the ship will be going. Okay, those types of flags, those types of mast helps the captains, or helps the people in order to move on board upon the ship, sorry, upon the sea. Okay, so this is the mast. So it seems that the mast is being broken by the thunder, by the storm, and it is a very fearful thing if the ship shattered, if the ship breaks, and as they will all fall down and they will drown in this deep sea. Okay, so we shuddered there in silence, and the stoutest held his breath, while the hungry sea was roaring and the breakers talked with death. See what has happened next? So we shuddered there in silence. Shuddered means shook in fear. You can say shivering. They were shivering in fear. They were shaking in fear. Okay, so they shook in fear and they were in silence. They, what they will do? They cannot do anything. They cannot move away. They cannot run away. So they need to remain silent and hopeless. Okay, they were full of fear. Okay, for the stoutest held his breath. For the stoutest means the bravest. Whoever is the bravest among them, all of them were in so fear that they held his breath. They they stopped taking their breaths. They became so shocked. They became so fearful about what to do, how to save their lives. So they held his breath, they stopped their breath. They do not know how to save themselves. Okay. While the hungry sea was roaring and the breakers talked with death, the sea over here is being compared with a hungry, with hunger, like a hungry human being or a hungry animal, whatever it is being compared. The sea is being compared with a hungry animal or a person. Okay, as if the sea is so hungry that it wants to have all of them. It wants to have all of the men of the ship. Okay, so while the hungry sea was roaring, roaring means roar, tiger roars. It is the sound. Okay, so while the hungry sea was roaring, roaring means over here, if the sea was having thunder, was having storm at that time, so the waves that raises at that moment, makes sound. It becomes so fearful, it becomes so terrible, it becomes so strong, it becomes so terrible that it makes sound. So it seems that the sea became hungry and it is roaring. Okay. And the breakers talked with death. The breakers means large waves that break into foam on the shore. See, it is written on the book only. See, breakers means large waves. You have seen in the sea now there are some large waves that break into foam. Foam means also, I will not say, on the shore. So the breakers means actually the strong waves. Okay, large waves, whatever. So, and the breakers talked with death. It seems that the sea waves were talking with death. Over here, students, this is to inform you that see the word death, D is written with capital letter, isn't it? This particular word death is being personified. Personified means it seems that death is a person. Death is not a person. I know you, I can understand that you cannot understand over here. I'm repeating for you people. Over here, this particular word death is being personified. Personified means the word death is being compared with a human being. Okay, it seems that death is standing over there and the sea waves, the strong sea waves, are talking with him in order to take the human lives. I think it is clear to you people, isn't it? So it seems that the sea becomes so hungry that it was roaring at that time, and the breakers, the sea waves, were talking with death in order to take the man's lives over there. Okay. And thus we sat in darkness, each one busy with his prayers. We are lost, the captain shouted as he staggered down the stairs. See what has happened next? And thus we sat in darkness. Now, I think you can understand well that as the and the most important thing is this particular timing is midnight time. There is no such light over there, and since the sea is full of storm, there must be clouds all over, so it must be much more darker. Okay, and if they have provisions of light also in that particular ship, those lights must be off, must be cut off at that time due to the storm. So it is full of dark all over where they where the people were on board. Okay, so and thus we sat in darkness, each one busy with his prayers. So each and every people on board were so busy with their prayers at that very moment. We are lost, the captain shouted. Now the captain, um, who is the head, who is the decision maker of the ship, the captain who can control everything of the ship, the captain who is the father of each and every people on board at that time, have given up, have lost his hopes. He do not know how to save the other people. He do not know how to save the lives of the people, those who are on board. So um, out of fear, by losing all the hopes, he shouted, "We are lost. We are lost. We cannot see. We cannot find out any way out of the storm. So we are lost." Okay. Over here. This particular lost, students, try to understand what I am telling. Over here, this particular lost have different meanings. Try to understand. Lost is we are lost. The first and foremost thing is, if you try to understand in a simple way, we are lost means we have lost our way, we have lost our route, since because of the storm we have mm, the sheep may have gone in some other direction, that is why they have lost their way, so we are lost. This the captain can say at that time. Another thing, another meaning, if you want to say, we are lost means we are lost as we have already loses our hope. We lost all our hopes. That is the thing, if the captain can say. And the third thing is, third meaning, if you want to say, we are lost means we cannot win. We cannot win by saving our lives. We have lost our lives in the battlefield in order to save our life. If you compare this stormy sea with a battlefield, you can understand that they have lost their lives. They have lost um, everything along with their lives. So, we are lost altogether means many things. Okay, it is not only losing of direction, losing of way. It is not only losing hopes. It it is not only losing their lives in the battlefield, but everything. We are lost means we have lost everything. Okay, this the captain was announcing at that time. I think it is clear to you. As he staggered down the stairs, as he staggered means walked unsteadily. Now, this captain was walking unsteadily down the stairs. This staggered means walking unsteadily. Now, when it is a stormy night, and that is also upon the sea, the ship was moving in a different direction. All of a sudden, it was having some jarking. So, quite necessarily, the man, whoever or whoever were there on the board, they must be moving unsteadily only. So it happens with the captain also. While he was moving down the stairs on board, he was walking unsteadily. Okay. But his little daughter whispered, and she took his icy hand. Isn't God up on the ocean just the same as on the land? Now see what has happened. But his little daughter, this captain was having his daughter also along with her on board in that particular ship. Okay. So at that moment, his little daughter was telling something, was whispering something. Okay. She took his icy hand. Now, can you imagine her hands are being called icy hand? Now see, this girl was so little. Okay, and you all know that this timing was winter time, and there was full of storms and all. So everybody over there on board must be feeling very cold. And since this girl was so little, her hands must be icy, must be not full of ice, but it is being compared with ice as it is full, as it is very much cold. Means our hands was very cold at that time. That is why it is being told icy hand. Okay. So as she took his icy hand, as oh, I'm so sorry, students. Wait a little bit. See, it is written. I just missed one word. See, it is written. But his little daughter whispered, as she took his icy hand. It is not the young girl's icy hand, it is the captain, it is the father's icy hand. Since it is winter time, the hand and the body must be icy, must be cold enough. So he was the little girl, by taking her father's hand, by taking her father's icy hand, cold hand, whispering something at that very moment. Now let us see what she was telling. Isn't God upon the ocean just the same as on the land? Now she was wondering, she was asking her father that as there is God upon land, we all know that there is God upon land, since we always call, we always worship, we always pray to God whenever we feel like. But the little girl do not know whether God is there upon the ocean. She was asking her father that whether the God is present upon the ocean or not, whether we can pray the God upon the ocean, whether the God is available on the ocean, on the sea. Okay. As soon as this little girl have said such words, as soon as this little girl have asked her father whether there is there is God upon the ocean, like it is present upon the land, the people, whoever present on board, gathered hope by hearing the little voice of the little girl about God. The people who were there, who were present on board, gathered hope. They regained their faith upon God. See what it is written next. Then we kissed the little maiden, and we spoke in better cheer, and we anchored safe in harbor, and the morn was shining clear. See, at the very next moment, what they have done, what the other people have done, the people, those who were on board, they kissed the little maiden. Maiden means the young girl. They have kissed her, and we spoke in better cheer now, as they have regained their faith, as they have regained their hope at that time. They started to speak in better thoughts at that time. They become cheerful little bit at that time, as they have all regained their hopes. Okay. Now by this, somehow the strong storm that was there, who have decided to take their lives, have passed away by their huge, by sorry, not by their huge, sorry, by their lot much prayings to the Almighty God, by hearing the confidence, by hearing the motivational words from the little girl. The strong wind have passed somehow. These people have regained their confidence at that moment. Now, the next morning, see, it is written, the next morning only, I'm showing where it is written. See, and we anchored safe in harbor. We anchored means we landed safely in harbor. Harbor, you must be knowing where the ships um, got landed. So at that place only. And the morn was shining clear. Morn means morning time. So from this we can understand that the next day is the morning. Hmm. The night has gone, the terrible night has gone, and it is now the next morning, and was shining clear means it is full of sunlight. It is shining, it is glowing, and it is a there was a clear sky. Okay, so in the next morning, When the sun was shining clearly, they anchored, they landed safely on the harbor. Okay, so this is the poem all about. I hope you can understand well. Now try to understand by yourself. If you cannot understand, then I'm there to help you out. Okay, so thank you, my students. Goodbye.